Well, good morning, everybody. Welcome back to Vince Anello Show on WJJL 1440. And today we have two guests. Our guests today are Legislators Dennis Virtuoso and Jason Zona. And they've been regulars on this show, and I really appreciate that. We're trying to keep the community at least up to speed on what goes on with county government. And with that, I'd just like to say good morning to both of you.
Good morning. Good morning.
I had to let go of that, those remarks this morning because it really, for 4 years I kept my mouth shut, and I can list the number of times that the mayor, and the mayor stopped doing it, and I want to acknowledge that, but the mayor and some department heads would take shots at the previous administration, and we have the same workers. And to me, that was just a shot at me. And did I take it personally? Yes, I did, because I know I worked 50, 60 hours a week as mayor, and I know that the efficiency in DPW was greatly increased. But let's go to our caller. Maybe let's start
Wait. You had a chance to blow off steam. Can I just blow off a little steam now?
Sure, caller, hang on. The Legislator Virtuoso wants to blow off some steam. That's good. No, but that's good for your your system, though, Dennis. You shouldn't keep it pent up.
I just want to clarify something, because when George Maziarz, and I'm not going to call him Senator Maziarz because he doesn't deserve that title as far as I'm concerned. When George Maziarz was on your show 2 weeks ago, he made a statement about me and the mayor. He said that Dennis Virtuoso and the mayor cut a deal for him to be acting director so he can get overtime. What a blatant lie that is. And George Maziarz, I'm calling you a liar. You are a liar. And for you to say something like that, you demean your status as a senator. I'll tell you that right now. And you get on this program, and that's all you do is bash every politician that's a Democrat. Every politician that's a Democrat, you get on this show and bash. Come on. Let's talk about state issues. Let's do that, George, okay? You said that I cut a deal with the mayor. Well, just to inform you, Mr. Maziarz, that the Director of Inspections hasn't been in the budget for the last 18 years, since the Galley administration. So there is no job of Director of Inspections. There's only a stipend for an acting director, George. So get your facts straight, George, okay? Because you don't know what you're talking about. And when you try to demean somebody's, like I cut a deal with the mayor and the mayor cut a deal with me, you're the number one deal maker in this county, George. So don't attack people for that, all right? I'm trying to do my job. I'm doing two jobs right now, all right? I'm the chief building inspector for the city, and I'm also acting director. And I'm saving the taxpayers about $80,000 a year by doing two jobs, George. Okay, and my job, yes, I get a lot of overtime as the chief building inspector, because that's my job. I'm on 24-hour call. When there's a major fire or when there's an incident where the police need me, I have to be there. They call me at 2 or 3 in the morning. When you're sleeping home with your teddy bear, I'm out fighting, helping the firefighters and the police. That's my job, okay? And I'm on 24-hour call, and I've been doing that for the last 12 years. So there's no fix, no deal to do overtime, George. Why don't you just concentrate on state business, George? Because, people in the city are getting a little sick of it. And if you notice, Vince, the people he attacks, okay? Virtuoso, Zona, Piccarello, Del Monte, DeSantis, Graninetti, Destino. Do you see a little correlation there? Number one, we're all Italian, and number two, we're all Democrats. So, George, straighten your act out, George, will you? Get your facts straight, too, George.
The preceding statement was brought to you by, well, certainly as the host, I've kept an open mind on all comments, and I'm sure the senator will have some.
You know that. You were mayor. Now, tell me, am I lying? Is there a job in the budget for director of inspections?
But the council could fund it if they wanted to.
They could do it. But it's there for a dollar.
It's there for a dollar
for 18 years.
Right.
So the mayor could not make me director now if he wanted to. There's no job there, George.
But again, the custom has been to keep it in for $1 to keep the title, and I understand that.
Right.
you
Well,
know.
Vince, how are you this morning?
I'm doing fine. Dennis got off some steam. I got off some steam. We have 2 callers on the line already. And did you want to get off some steam before we go to our callers?
I'm stress-free these days.
You look pretty
Listen,
relaxed.
My wife's gonna be giving birth to our second child.
Oh,
any
great.
day now,
Congratulations. Congratulations.
So my stress starts then. Right now, I feel great.
No, well, you can always call the fire department, right, if it's in the middle of the night?
I trust them to do everything.
Okay, but again, we'll talk about the SuperSat later. I know why you're smiling.
Oh, yeah.
Caller, you're on.
I just want to carry on what I said earlier. When the city goes on, they use our money, our taxpayers' money over here, our money, whether it's casino money or taxpayers' money, to go on out and remeld the streets over here. My God, don't you think they should finish it off? I mean, right down the middle of it, there's a seam. It's just like this brand new street over here, East Fall Street, that I don't understand why they went out and repaved that street. There's no houses on it anymore. There's nothing. Once in a great while, you see a car coming down there, but they went out and they paved it, but they never finished it off. And now, I went down the street here before the snow. You could see the seam right down the middle is already starting to crack. It's flaking and everything else. How long is it going to last? Another couple years, 2-3 years, and we're going to have to do this over again? But if you notice what Dave Kinney says, we're going to come back in about a year and we're going to go on out and fill it up with the sealer.
Well,
it's too late then.
Well, if you heard me earlier, Dave, I totally disagree with that statement, and about sealing the streets a year later or 2 years later.
Efficiency, Vince. Efficiency.
Because my biggest concern is, look, instead of doing 40 streets,
do 10 good.
Well, 38, or 36 or 35, because here's the big problem, and this is what I keep warning the taxpayers of the city of Niagara Falls about. The infrastructure is breaking down dramatically. Now, look at what happened on 72nd Street and 77th Street. The pipes froze up. Well, pipes froze up all over the city for different reasons. But what was one of the reasons that they found over on those 2 streets? That when they did the other half, I'm not sure if it was 72nd or 77th, but when they did the second half, the water board and the city didn't get together and change the mains. How in the heaven's name can you go and dig up a street that is usually guaranteed for 20 years when you do a full dig and not fix the water lines?
Well, I completely agree with you about all this. I just recently over here, I checked on my uncle. He lives in DeVoe. And plus, I like going over to DeVoe Park and watching them people over there. They get that beautiful ice skating ring. And there's not really a lot of people using it. But I go there and I watch young and old. They're having fun. I'll park there and watch it. But anyways, you're going to see, unless they're not talking about that, Lewiston Road, before the street was higher, when I used to pull in the DeVoe parking lot over there, there was just a very slight incline. Right now, my bumper is dragging the ground. And if you look at all the houses over there, the aprons going up is very, very steep. So you know that road was made lower than the original road that was there. So that means there's less soil, there's less dirt on top of the water line, so there's going to be freezing there. Nothing is being done correctly here. It's just like when you cut a tree down, Vince. Why don't you finish it off by going out and milling the damn, the stump? Get the
Well,
stump
according to
right there and finish it
DPW,
off.
they have a better way of doing it, so I think it's a little more expensive, but it's a better way of doing it. But Dave, I got to get to the legislators. Thank you very much.
Let me just say this to Dennis and Zona. Hey, I hope you guys do something over here with this water authority. I got a letter over here about 2-3 months ago. The problem houses in the city that where it was common for the water lines freezing, they used to allow you they'd send you a letter, let you know the months of December, January, February, March, to let your faucet run, dribble. This way you wouldn't have any problems of it freezing up. I got a letter over here recently stating that this thing is coming to an end.
Yeah,
My
right,
God,
Dave,
if this happens,
Dave, not to
you know
interrupt
how
you.
much it costs
Yeah.
to go out and get a hot shot in.
Dave.
I hope you guys do something
Yeah,
about this.
Dave, not to interrupt, but I already started the motion on that. I asked the mayor to set up a meeting with the water board, and he's in the process of doing that now, so we could talk about that issue.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Dave. Thank you. Again, and that's something that can be addressed because there's less expensive ways to address frozen pipes than to do it the last minute when you have to do something. And on that note, I want to say that I just heard yesterday at the coffee shop again, a woman with 3 kids no water for a couple weeks. Neither neighbor will let the water board attach the hose to their house. If you want to know, remember what I said, 5% of the people in the workforce cause 95% of the problems. 5% of the people in the community can create 95% of the problems. Think about it. Go ahead. We do have some callers on the line, but go ahead and we'll go from there, unless you want to take calls.
Well, I just like to say too about some of the things that Senator Maziarz said about our city. He talks about Niagara Falls and he goes on and on about the train station, but he never talks about like what's going on in Lockport. With his buddy, the mayor there, and his brother-in-law, who is the controller over there, the fraud and corruption that's going on over there. And then again, the project over there, that Flight of Five, that's a $12 million project. What is that going to do? At least the train station is going to bring in some tourists. Flight of Five, what's that going to do? We had over $600 million worth of development in Niagara Falls in the last 3 years. $600 million. Nobody in the county could say they had that much. George Maziarz brags about Yahoo. You would think by listening to George Maziarz, he brought in Yahoo. He didn't do that. That came from the governor's office. He's there with every picture that he can get, when they expand and everything else. It wasn't him that did it. And don't let him fool you. It wasn't him. That came from the governor's office. You can ask Francine or any other state official on that one.
Do you want to go take some callers? Caller, you're on.
Hey, guys, how you doing? This is Chris.
Good.
You want to vent a little bit?
Well, no, I want to talk about these voting machines and when
yeah,
is this
good.
gonna end? This article. Did anybody get a chance to read the opinion page today in the Gazette?
No, I didn't see it.
There's a big article about these voting machines and just the ridiculous way it's being handled. This is one of them footballs that really stick in my craw. Because of the fact that it just seems like it should just be handled better. It's such a political football. It's craziness. And would you guys agree with me or no?
But that's why we did something about it. Go ahead, Jason. Tell
Well,
about the resolution.
and the problem is, again, yes, as usual, this gets turned into a political issue, and you have some board members that are taking the heat on this.
Maybe you could explain to people what the issue is.
I'll explain exactly what happened. This came from Niagara County. Niagara County has the voting machines. The Board of Elections handles the voting machines. Last year, when the Board of Education was going to get the machines like they do for all the polling sites, they were told at the time by both commissioners, who are no longer, both are since retired, that the machines were not available any longer to the city because of primaries that are in June. Gave the excuses why. So the Board of Education was forced to make a decision. They cannot afford to go buy $1 million worth of voting machines for 23 sites. The county was able to told them they were able to give 8 machines, and they used it last year. This year, so they're going through the same process. Well, the community, rightfully so, got upset about this. It makes it difficult to go vote. Nobody wants that to happen. Unfortunately, what the Board of Education was under is what Niagara County told them. What the county again at fault. We set them up with the Board of Elections. They spoke to the current commissioners. They have no problem taking care of now to get the 23 machines to them now. And it sounds like that's probably what's going to happen now. So for whatever reason, and I know last week you had board member John Destino was on here explaining this. And again, these guys were going under what Niagara County told them. And everyone seems to forget about that fact, because it's been over a year since this all happened. It looks like the situation's been corrected, and the machines are available, and I believe they have a meeting coming up. In fact, I think it's tonight where they're going to address this issue. So hopefully after tonight it'll be all put to rest.
I think he was talking about the storage of them.
The storage.
Oh, I thought you were talking about the school.
Well, I didn't want to.
I didn't want to interrupt you.
I was going to run one into the other, but we're starting.
Well, I didn't see the editorial, so I didn't have no idea what
this was about the storage of the machines and the hands that are involved in this whole thing.
You're talking about the facility and the fact that it's a privately owned building and all that.
Well,
yes.
we just did a resolution. That's why I was going to let Jason explain about the resolution.
Well, the resolution was strictly that this was when this was done years ago, this was done as a no-bid lease to Clear Opportunities Properties, I believe, which is owned by David Ulrich in Lockport. And it was a no-bid lease given out. The lease is now, we have to give a certain amount of notice to break the lease, which we, myself, Dennis, Owen, Steed, and Mark Grozio, put the resolution in to terminate the lease and put this out to bid. In the meantime, once we did that, Clear Opportunities exercised their right to terminate the lease as well. So now, I know there was a committee meeting the other night that Dennis was a part of, that they voted now this is going to go out, or there's going to be a request for quotation, it's called.
Right.
You could probably answer. You were at the committee meeting on this.
Yeah, what
one.
we're going to do now, we're going to go out for a request for quotes on this space, instead of just giving it out to, the Republican that donates the most.
Right.
Well, they're actually going to have to be, accountable for the space that they rent, and, we'll take the lowest price, as long as the building meets all the qualifications that we need, so.
Since we reduced the size of these machines to a quarter of what they used to be, you'd think that it would be a lot easier to store these things.
Well, yeah, it is, but they're computerized, so
Right.
it has to be,
They have to be secure.
secure. They have to be plugged in, so you need there's 180 machines, so you need 180
No, it's
outlets.
actually, there's 500 machines.
Okay.
I spoke to one of the
Alright.
commissioners, it's 500 machines, and at all times, 250 of them need to be on power.
Right.
Then they also need room to store old ballots, and, these are all things that have to be kept. So they need storage room for that. They need to be able to drive in with, when they're picking up these things up at night, at 2 o'clock in the morning, bringing them back on election night. You're not going to be carrying these machines in from outside, so you have to be able to drive the trucks
in there.
inside.
Right.
Or a loading dock, yeah.
So even the facility, we have to agree that even the facility has to be somewhat specialized.
Right.
It's not much. It's not nothing.
But
that-
you would have to be,
Yes.
oh, no, a big Butler building that's
Sure.
insulated, I understand that.
But it looks like it's going to finally, after all these years of a sweetheart deal, is finally going to go out to proper bidding.
Okay, good. Hey, but I'm going to get off and listen. What about this telephone issue? This thing.
That's on their list of things to talk about.
Okay, I'm going to get off and listen. then.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Chris. Thank you. Thank you very much. We do have some other callers. We'll go to one more caller real quick, and then we'll go on some of those points because those are very important. Caller, you're on.
Good morning.
Good morning.
And there's no way you're going to get away with this quick, not after what the opening statements were. And, Vince, I feel that you contribute a little bit to this feelings that that Legislator Virtuoso is saying about how when George Maziarz goes on your program, how he constantly talks about Virtuoso.
In Zona.
About Francine.
In
He
Francine,
talks
yeah.
about his operatives, his constituency, and I'm really inclined to agree with Dennis Virtuoso that he has no stature whatsoever as a statesman. Let's put it that way. He's been in 20 years, but Vince, this is your own fault because you don't press him for any of the state issues. He's too busy talking about, like I said, Deister, Francine. Francine isn't even in office anymore, and he's still harping on her. He should be concentrating on the fact that our tax burden in New York State is 64% above the United States median average. Our public employment is 17% above national averages. We pay government workers 20% more than other states, and here are 55% more for electricity for our electricity than the other states pay. And him being chairman of the Energy Commission, the Medicaid is twice that of California and Texas combined. Those are mandates that fall on the county. You don't let him address none of this.
Listen,
He diverts all the attention by talking about other people. He doesn't mention about the city of Lockport and the folly that went on with his brother-in-law, that's the treasurer, Mike White, who even lied to the state controller when he tried to make them, the Lockport's answer to them from Mike White, was that he tried to make them believe that he had been newly elected to office after he had been in there more than 8 years. Tucker and his boys on the Common Council in the city of Lockport ran up a deficit of over $2 million, and everybody's concentrating on a $9,000 expense from the Youth Bureau, which they need to concentrate on, but nobody's holding any of these Republicans. And I say that, and I am not a Democrat, but I'm going to play fair. They are all incompetent on there. That whole board should have resigned. You don't hear Maziarz saying a word about it. All they did is they took such risky business. None of them knew what they were doing. And now you have another mayor that the people in the city of Lockport are stuck with until the end of 2015, till November, because according to their charter. And now George Maziarz's brother-in-law, who you haven't heard a peep out of George Maziarz's mouth, his brother-in-law is going to get a CPA in there. That's what I heard the mayor say on LCTV last night. They're going to get a CPA, someone with, quote, knowledge. And here he has the nerve to talk about the mayor, to talk about Dennis, everything else what he's supposed to, except what his shortcomings are.
Well, that's where the deflections start. I mean,
Yeah,
to
that's
come
all
on
it
and
is it's a deflection. But Vince, I blame you two because you pansy to him too. And
Me?
me.
I don't.
No, she's talking about me.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I am. Vince.
But as soon as you finished with your statement, there is something I can say to
I
that.
hope so, Vince, because I like you. And I always felt that you had the city's interest at heart.
Well, I
You
do.
had your problems, but I'll tell you something. You always cared about the people, not this one over here. Well, one thing. At least the people in the city of Niagara Falls knew better than to vote for George Maziarz overwhelmingly. He only voted because of the other end and Orleans County and the people in the Lockport, Newfane, Wilson area because they don't know any better. But he only talks about what he wants to talk about.
Well, let me address that, and we do have other callers, and we have.
I want your other callers to call, so I'll get off the line. And Vincenzo, don't let him off the hook so easy.
Okay, well, no.
And Dennis and Jason, you got your problems with that Niagara County Legislature because I heard that's another thing. No, I got to say this. Rick Updegrove is bragging. He's bragging about they have a $500,000 in projects, but he didn't tell you to go into the budget and look under the exemptions. 240 tax exemptions, almost to the tune of $1 billion, $867 million. Ask him about that. Give him the hard questions, too.
well, most of those projects are also in Niagara Falls.
Bye, guys.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
A lot of good points, and I have to agree with the caller. I mean, I don't press the guests hard enough, but the way I've tried to address this is it's a call-in show. I'd rather have somebody that has some personal experience or personal knowledge about an issue than me just give my opinion out every time somebody speaks. But I've made it my business to at least, for something that I've been involved with, just the 2 points I tried to make at the beginning of the show. Stump removal, which seems insignificant, and sealing a street, which seems insignificant, but I was directly involved with that, and I know that there is a more efficient way of doing both. So I felt compelled to say something. It wasn't an attack on the mayor. The mayor is not out there managing the streets, and my reason for attacking it is because for 5 years, the Department of Public Works director has made comments about the previous administration without giving facts out. And right now, the DPW and forestry and everything else is costing us a lot of good money. The people get paid, but you can't tell me that it's more efficient now than it was, 8 years ago or 7 years ago.
Yeah, but Vince, didn't you tell George Maziarz that wasn't in the budget, my job? Didn't you tell him that?
What do you mean?
He knew.
No,
He knew it wasn't in the budget, correct?
I think he knows. He knows that it was in there for $1.
Right, and yet he went out and said said what he said, which was a complete lie.
Well, at the end
you
of
know,
the
maybe
day-
that's what something you should have challenged him on, because you knew as mayor that wasn't in there. So, that's something you could have challenged him on. But and believe me, if I'm saying something wrong, I want you to correct me. So it's not like, anytime, correct me if I'm wrong, that's for sure.
The question about the budget, though, and that particular position, I mean, for me, I offered the information that it was in there for $1 to
Right.
protect the civil service.
So he knew that, and he still went on and lied.
But as far as what he says and what his opinion is, I mean, he's adamant about it. You can see that, and as far as me going toe to toe with him on here, well, I'd be doing that, with all my guests.
I'd like to talk a little bit about his job too, because and Wena's right. As a state senator, he's making $80,000 a year. Then he gets $12,000 a year for being chairman of the Energy Commission. Then he gets $30,000 a year for being the third vice chair, or whatever he is. So he's making over $130,000 a year on a part-time job. Not only that, but every day he's in Albany, they give him $200 a day for food and lodging. Now, I don't know about you, but I couldn't eat $200 worth of food a day if you paid me. But and they don't have to show any receipts either. All right, and he's got a condo out there, so he's not paying rent. He owns the condo, and he never bought a meal out there because all the lobbyists buy him meals all the time. So what is he? $200 a day he gets for that. That's a lot of money that this guy makes, and he's got nerve to talk about people in this city. And then let's talk about the state issues. You're right. Do you know Medicaid cost us $46 million a year? Now, on your tax bill, your county tax bill. Now, Medicaid is a state-funded mandate. So it was the early pre-K and intervention and the legal defense. That's all for indigent people. That's all state mandated. Safety net, that's state mandated. Do you know what that costs Niagara County taxpayers? Well, let me break it down for you. Now, these are things George Maziarz should be working on that he's silent on. Now, he's the third most powerful guy in the state, and he talks about how close he is with the governor. Well, George, why don't you take care of some of these mandates that are crippling us in Niagara County? Medicaid, $46 million a year. Now, on the average house in Niagara County, the average house is $100,000. Do you know what that $100,000 house, you pay about $700 a year in taxes, county taxes, okay? Now, in Niagara Falls, it's not 100. The average house, I think, is around 50, 55. So you're probably paying around 500 or 600, about 500. But anyways, let's go on the average. The average house is $100,000 in the county. Medicaid alone costs you $473 per year on your $700 tax bill. Pre-K and early intervention, $3.8 million. That's $38 on your tax bill. Legal defense for indigent people, $3 million a year. That's $30 on your tax bill. Safety net, okay? Safety net is when people are on welfare for 5 years. After that, they're supposed to be off welfare, where New York State has a program where you could continue to be on welfare, okay? And that's completely state-run. It used to be a 50-50 split, 50 from the county, 50 from the state. Now they change it. It's 79% from the county and only like 20% from the state. So it's costing the county $9.1 million a year for that. That's $92 on your tax bill. So on a $100,000 house, average in Niagara County, your tax bill is about $735. $634 of that is all mandated from the state. That's mandated programs that the state says you will put in. It's the state programs, but they make the counties pay for it. Without that, your tax bill would be $100 a year. Can you imagine that? $100 a year? So, George Maziarz, why don't you work on that, George?